Welcome to my channel. It's so good to have you here. I know that we're on different sides of the ocean. So what time is it for you now? It's a Friday.
Yeah, Friday, and it's around 4:30, 4:35, nearly 4:45-ish. But I am so excited to join you again, Amanda, for another live.
That's amazing. It is Friday morning for me. So we are both on the precipice of our weekends, which is really exciting. And welcome to anyone who's tuning in. It is so good to have you here. Be sure to hit the like button, and you can say hello in the chat and comment on where you're tuning in from and maybe even what time it is for you. But many of you already know Jamila. She's been on this channel before and on my Science and Magic podcast. But I do want to give you a moment to introduce yourself before we dive into this juicy conversation. So kind of who are you? What do you offer? And I know there's a lot of followers on my channel who follow human design. So what your energy type is in human design.
Okay, so I'm Jamila, and I call myself a life and business energetics coach because I do a lot of work with people in following their desires, the truest desires, and cleaning up their nervous system and energy so that they can align to having those desires. Whether it's more passion, fun, excitement in your life, whether it's more clients, more money in your business, this is all available for you when you just clean out your nervous system and clean out the energetic gunk that's living in there. So you can actually be a person who can receive all your desires deliciously. And I'm a projector in human design, same as Amanda. And I'm really excited for today and the things that everyone's going to bring up today. And the people that are watching this in the future present, I'll call it the future present.
Wonderful. And we have someone tuning in from Minnesota. That's where I'm from as well. Hello, Claudia. And we have someone tuning in from Orlando, Florida, and it's 11:40 for them as well. So thank you for saying hi in the chat. You're all welcome to continue to comment as we chat. There will be Q&A at the end, but you're also welcome to ask questions as we go along, and we'll just kind of flow with this conversation. I know that we have listeners who are tuning in from all different perspectives and relationships with money. So, depending on whatever income level you're at, one of the things that we might all have in common on this particular episode is an interest in making money in a way that feels good. And that does not entail hustling and grinding and sacrifice. So I think whether you're someone who has no problem bringing in lots of money, that's easy to you, or someone who is hoping to grow their income significantly, this conversation is going to center around the feeling of making money and attuning that with pleasure. So it's not necessarily about the outcome, though the outcome will unfold from the feeling, as we'll talk about. And I love how you say clearing out the gunk of the nervous system. As many of you know, I love talking about the nervous system. So maybe we can bring some of that into this conversation as well. I would like to start by sharing our personal money stories. You can share yours and I'll share mine. And as we're doing this and as you're tuning in, you can feel free to briefly, share yours in the chat too. So I think that telling stories can help to build connection and to build resonance and to link patterns and share ideas. So maybe Jamila, start by sharing up a little bit of the context in which you grew up in and how it helped to form your beliefs around money from a child.
Yeah, definitely. So my parents were immigrants to the UK, and when they came here, they had to literally build their lives up from scratch. And without even knowing much of the English language, let me add. And when I was a child, I remember they were struggling. Like my dad would work so many hours to kind of make ends meet. And what I saw of money was you have to hustle, you have to work hard, you have to sacrifice a lot just to make ends meet. And I also saw this story of you need to save. So whatever extra money you have, it's good to save. Like that was the ethos and the environment that was built up in where it's healthy for you to have this mentality to just save your money for your future or a rainy day or to buy a home. And growing up, I remember me feeling this, like when I wanted to buy something for myself and I had my own money, I would sometimes question it. I would hesitate, like, oh, should I really buy that? Is it actually necessary? So that was like a question, like, do you actually need that? Do I need another new jumper? Do I need another new bag? Do I need another new this? Rather than asking myself, like, is this something that actually delights me? Is it something that's going to move me to being more self-expressed in who I am and being more in tune with myself, so then I can go in the world and create and be more of who I am? Sometimes the things that we buy, they hold the energetic vibration of pulling us closer to where we really want to go. Whether it's a destination, whether it's a job, a career, the identity of who you want to be. And sometimes we withhold allowing those things to come into our life. So that's what I did. I withheld so many different things. And I saw how this really affected me as well when I first went into personal development and I had to invest in a program. And the first program I invested in was, I think it was $500. And I nearly threw up at the thought of paying $500. I was like, what? That is such a huge amount of money. Like, I wanted to know every single thing that I had in there. I was like doubting, is this going to work for me? Is it not going to work for me? And going through that program and then seeing things from that program and then continuing to invest, I finally ended up doing money work. And I saw how all my previous behaviors, my previous patterns, my childhood programming around money was actually limiting not only how much I could receive from programs, how much I could receive from the information I was getting, but was also limiting my own capacity to attract money, to call in money from a feminine, pleasure-filled, ease-filled way. And once I really went so deep into this money work, and then I created a whole course on this as well, the money bundle, and I, constantly kind of evolved in that whole money work, I realized that there is so much more to money than what we're kind of traditionally told about money in school or in society, but also what we're told about money when it comes to money blocks and money wounding. There is so much more.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that. And this inquiry around when we're buying something, asking, do we need it versus will it bring me delight? That really hits home for me. I grew up in a single parent household. My mother, bless her soul, she worked so hard to support my sister and I look back and I don't know where she resourced the energy from. She worked at 1.3 jobs. She was a school bus driver in the morning. She'd wake up at like 4 a.m., drive school buses, then go to her full-time desk job for the day, and then do banquet serving on evenings and some weekends. And in addition to that, taking care of 2 little ones and making sure that we were fed, that we felt loved, that we felt supported. And I learned so much about perseverance from her and about hard work and about really digging into the resource that we all have within us. When we're in survival mode, the body is incredible and the body is capable of incredible things. And I saw that in my mother. And I know money stories for me, she gave me a weekly allowance. I think it was like $1 or $2, and it was earned by doing chores. So I learned that money comes from trading time and that it's built over time. And I learned to budget. I learned to save. And if I wanted a toy, it would take several weeks to get it. These aren't bad values to have. Hard work, perseverance, saving money, like they're great values when balanced with what if making money can actually come not through trading time and come in a way that's passive. And once I started learning these things, my mind was like, whoa, these are things I didn't learn. And I'm grateful for my childhood. And I don't know if anyone else can resonate with either Jamila or mine's stories around growing up with this. Money comes from sacrifice, from working hard, from investment, from putting forth, and shifting as an adult with an adult brain to being like, actually, money can come from more places. And it doesn't always come from sacrificing well-being, from sacrificing time, from struggle, from striving. And this is where the intersection of pleasure ties in. And this is really where we're going to center around our conversation, because I think even if you grew up not in a survival mode mindset, and maybe you had very successful, parents as far as like bringing in a wide array of income and being healthily supported, more than supported in that way. There's still many people who have great successful jobs and are so amazing at bringing in income through their work, but they are struggling and they're still in survival mode. Even with this huge amount of money, the feeling is still sacrifice. And a lot of my clients, that's what it is. They sacrifice their well-being for money. But then in my lens, what's the purpose of money if you're feeling depleted and in sacrifice and in survival? So you were a huge hit on my podcast. And that's one of the reasons I invited you back, because I think people have so many questions and inquiry around money, and you're so great with the energetics. And so I'm going to really encourage people, even if you're watching the replay, ask questions. Jamila's got a great insight on the energy behind the questions. But when I invited you on to talk about money, your response was, I'm actually more excited to talk about pleasure. Can you tell us why? What have you uncovered about pleasure that feels juicy to you and important to you?
So many reasons. In the context of money, I feel like when we think about money, there's like this societal programming and archetype that people hold in their mind of this rigid structure thing that you're either chasing or you're trying to get away from, like debt, owing people or owing organizations, things like that, or you're really constantly trying to chase. And then once you hit that level, it's like, okay, I need to create a new goal. I need to create a new amount to reach. And it's this constant ongoing like treadmill sort of energy. And when we tap into pleasure, and we can tap into the energetics of pleasure, and here pleasure can mean anything, like literally, and I'm sure Amanda's talked about this so much, like the pleasure from seeing a sunset. That 10 seconds of a sunset can shift your body and shift your nervous system and your internal landscape in such a way where you expand time and you expand that vibration of pleasure in you, that you could literally be watching the sunset in the Maldives. That same feeling could flow in your body, even though you're just watching the sunset from Minnesota or London or wherever it is. So tapping into those little kind of pockets of pleasure and combining it with money, like how can money be pleasurable for me? How can I infuse pleasure into my money transactions, into my experiences with money? How can I feel so good about money? And naturally, when I feel good about money, naturally, when I feel excited about money, when I feel even neutral about money, especially if you're feeling, some crunchy energy around money, even if you can just get to neutral and then pleasure, can I then allow more to flow in? Because if we look at the energetics of money doesn't like to be constricted and held and like tightly put down or put on a leash, kind of saying you're gonna go when you're gonna go where I say you're gonna go, and you're gonna go when I tell you to go, and otherwise I'm gonna keep you under lock and key and you're not allowed to go anywhere, and I want to see you grow, but I'm gonna keep watching you grow, but you're not allowed any freedom or any movement. Like if we think about that kind of energy, it's like stifled and like like locked up. It doesn't feel good. But if we can have this playful kind of energy of money where you can release it, you can invest it, you can spend it, you can allow it to go, and also trust and know that because you've let it go so freely, it will come back to you freely. So even if you're just at the supermarket and you're buying some milk, some bread, some eggs, and you let it go with gratitude, like Ken Honda talks about this when he says arigato with money, which is the Japanese word for thanking, like thank you to money. And you're letting it go and you're trusting and you're like, yeah, go into the world of money and the money playground, and you can go play and you can go like circulate around the world and in different countries and different places. And I know you're going to come back to me. And I know you're going to come back to me because I'm such a good keeper of money. I'm such a good stewardess or steward of money because I don't hold you so tightly. I let you go and I trust you're going to come back. And I know that I'm so supported by you. That kind of feeling with money, combining it with pleasure in whatever tiny element of pleasure you can bring in. And something's coming to me right now. Maybe somebody's watching this live that needs to hear this. But if you're feeling like such a tight kind of relationship with money because you've got bills to pay, and especially like right now we have a living crisis in the UK, maybe in other areas of the world also, and you've got bills to pay, or there's people that are wondering, how am I going to switch the heating on? How am I going to feed my kids and switch the heating on?
Mm-hmm.
When you receive that bill, how can you just make it just a little bit of pleasure? Can you put on some soothing sounds while you open it that just already calm your nervous system when you open it? Can you allow yourself to make yourself a delicious cup of coffee or tea or something and have that with you, hold that with you, feel nourished at the same time that you're opening it? That tiny little tweak that you make to infuse and add that little bit of pleasure in as you have this duality of this crunchy, difficult experience is you already shifting your relationship with money. Is already you shifting your energy around money and how you perceive money and how it gets to work for you.
And this shift towards pleasure, it's not a mental shift. It is very much through the senses.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to kind of start this conversation around pleasure. If those of you tuning in would want to share anything that you find pleasurable through your senses. So that could be something that tastes really delicious, like a warm cooked family dinner that's experienced when it's cold outside and you're snuggled in with your loved ones. Or maybe it is, as you said, watching the sunset, but then feeling the sun soak on the skin. So I would love to kind of share ideas with each other. So in the chat, let me know what you find delicious, what you find pleasurable as Jamila and I are talking. And I will speak those out loud and we'll start to move into this feeling of body. Like when I think of that, like warm sun, golden light on my skin, I feel a type of way in my body. And I love that you're talking less about what, because of not of course. Sometimes we can splurge on something and feel scarcity, actually. That's a whole nother conversation. But it's less about buying something that brings you pleasure and more about whatever interaction with money that you're having, even if it's bills, you're making sure that you're diving into the body and evoking pleasure, which is different than survival mode in the nervous system. Survival mode is very root chakra. Am I going to have a roof over my head? Am I going to get food? And this is advantageous to help our physical bodies survive. It's helped us throughout time, but it's often not as needed in our current modern society for most folks. And I think shifting out of survival and into sensation and slowing yourself down and not reacting is a really powerful practice. I'm a sucker for lavender or vanilla scented candles. I love that. So it sounds like, okay, so find your essential oil bottle of lavender, be like, here's this bill, or I'm going to pay this bill, or I'm going to pull up my bank account. Beforehand, closing the eyes, feeling the feet, holding that lavender oil, and just taking 3 deep breaths and maybe repeating, I am supported. I am here. I've got this in the present moment. I have a roof over my head. There's heat on, like I'm okay. Late night vibes with candles on and some slow jazz while sitting in bed, online shopping at the end of the day. That's a whole vibe. I love that. So you've got the late night vibes with candles on, vision, slow jazz, sound, and then online shopping. So you're shopping in this beautiful, luxurious setting. That's a great example. For me, it's a French vanilla latte. I hear you. I love coffee. So treating myself, often actually, I get up early in the morning and I have my own coffee at my place, but I love going to my favorite coffee shop. And the experience of it kind of slowly waking up with the world. It's quiet. I have my favorite coffee with this coffee shop that has really well-sourced milk, and it just tastes so delicious. And I'll have a scone, and it's a beautiful way to wake up. It feels luxurious. So I love these examples. Feel free to keep them coming. And you might already notice as you're listening that how much better you feel, or more in your body, because we're tapping into sensation. What does pleasure look like for you, Jamila? Like, what feels good for you in your life? What are your go-to
Oh my God,
practices?
I have so many. Like I have a massive list, and I encourage everyone, like after today's live, go and sit down and literally make a pleasure list. And
Mm,
this pleasure list is so important for you, because the way your nervous system works, especially when you're in fight, flight, or freeze, and you're getting triggered, or there's some stuff coming up for you, your body, like Amanda said, is wired to keep you safe. So pleasure is like out of the question. Your body is going to be like, what are you talking about, pleasure? No,
mhm.
we're not going there. I'm not even going to let you go there. And so your body will even try and numb out if you try and have a coffee. If you try and, a nice coffee, or you try and light a candle, your body would go into, okay, I need to hurry up and quickly drink this coffee. I've got that to do. I've got that to do. So having this pleasure list is so, so important, because first you need to get to this place of neutral in your body. So your body feels, like Amanda was saying, 3 deep breaths. So your body feels, oh, it's okay now. Oh, I am safe. I am safe. I've got the roof over my head. I've got a blanket near me. I'm sitting down. I'm safe. And then you can tap into pleasure, because your body needs that permission sometimes to tap into pleasure, especially if you've had a lot of trauma, or you know that your nervous system is dysregulated, and you're trying to do a lot of work to get it regulated most of the time. So this pleasure list is like, it's like your go-to. Like when I'm feeling like something feels difficult, how can I bring some pleasure into it? And that you can find something from that list. I have like things like a salt bath with candles and listening to a meditation in there. Things like reading a book, really good book, snuggled up, and really pondering and thinking about things that I read in the book, like self-reflection. I have things where I mindfully use food to tap into pleasure senses on my taste buds. I know you
Mhm.
mentioned the coffee, or a delicious meal with your family, but there's actually this practice of mindful eating where you can take even the food that you don't like and allow your body to just feel the sensations of it in your mouth, and even try and feel pleasure in that. Or it doesn't have to be food you don't like, it could be anything else. So even if it's just a grape or a little piece of chocolate, and letting it just sit there for a while, and just noticing each part of your tongue and each part of your mouth, and the sensations underneath that, and allowing yourself to feel pleasure in that. Even just pouring or putting lotion on your body and feeling that on your skin, and at the same time feeling love towards your body, feeling acceptance towards your body, nourishing your body in that way, and with soothing thoughts as well. um what else is there? I love walks in the water with like crunchy leaves, and like you snuggled up in a coat and a scarf and boots. I love that feeling. I feel like literally my list is so endless.
It feels so great to hear that. It feels great. It doesn't just sound great, it feels great. And it reminds me, I am in craniosacral school right now, which is a healing modality. And one of the things that my instructor offered was the affirmation: slower, deeper, wider, and smoother. And when the nervous system's in a state of survival, we're reactive. We move quickly, we tense up, we pull inward. We are in the head and the mind to strategize how to get out of the situation we're in. The antidote to this in so many ways is slowing down, because you can have that French vanilla latte and be strategizing of your day, or worried about your bills, keeping this in relationship with money too, or purchasing something. Or you can slow down, widen your experience, and be more present in your sensations, which moves you out of survival mode, and it starts to feel pretty good. We have another response here. Petting an animal. I love that. Animals are great. Or plant. Hug a tree. Feel a flower's soft petals. Pet a pup or a cat. And if I don't have any animals around, I can always go to a shelter or pet store and find critters to say hi to. So it sounds like animals are what we refer to in nervous system work as resource. And the things that feel good or even neutral, as Jamila was saying, are spaces of resource. In the body, same thing. For many people, the body doesn't actually feel very safe to be in for a wide array of reasons. Trauma, past experiences. And so I often instruct or guide my clients to finding a place in the body that feels, if not good, neutral. And these spaces often don't grab our attention. So that could be the cheekbones or the hands or maybe the lower legs, the random places. But when you drop your attention into your senses, if it feels overwhelming to the body, if you're like, oh, okay, I'm pulling up my budget for the month or my bills, or I'm looking at my profit loss report, or I'm not sure what's going to happen with my bills, or I'm in a state of survival while making this purchase, drop your attention into your body, but into those places that feel neutral or good. And reading these different situations, these yums, as I like to call them, these delicious, pleasure-filled moments, it reminds me of luxury, of this feeling of luxury, the energy of luxury. So I'm wondering, is pleasure different than luxury? And if so, what is their relationship? Or are they the same? Or could you speak to the energetics between that interplay?
Yeah, I love talking about the energetics of luxury. So firstly, when you hear the word luxury, what comes up for you? Like, do you have thoughts of, oh my God, that's not for me, that's for people that have so much money, I will never be able to afford luxury experiences, or is it like, oh my God, I wish I could have that, oh my God, I'm ready for that, I want that? Because you can take luxury and you can pour in the vibration of pleasure, or you can pour in the vibration of like pain or resentment, or I can't have that. So for me, luxury does not have to just be luxury designer bags and experiences in, Michelin star restaurants and beautiful experiences like that. You can have luxury in the most smallest and tiniest of ways. And right now, I'm like that on that side of, or you can might as well just see some candles there as well. I have just a reed diffuser that for me, it's luxury because the smell from it, it's like luxury vibes. I have elements of gold in my room, and gold in feng shui is like symbolic for money as well, and luxury. What is the tiniest way that you can add in luxury to your life? And it does not have to look the same way as mine, or the same way as Amanda's, or the same way as anyone else's. Because for you, what luxury can mean is something completely different to someone else. So for example, I'm not a massive fan of, like, I do have a few pieces of luxury makeup, but I'm not a massive fan of it. It's not something that would feel like, oh my God, that's me, playing with luxury. For me, other things are really, really luxurious. So the quality of coffees and teas that I buy, that to me is luxury, and that influences my vibration. And when it influences my vibration, I know it's going to influence how I be in the world and how I create in the world and what I put out in the world. So really look at what first of all, is there any meanings that you're attaching to luxury? Like, what's the first things that come up for you when you hear that word? And if it felt good to you, what would luxury be like for you?
Sounds like pleasure is feeling good through the senses. And luxury feels like extra space, anything that is in addition to, like, I'm thinking of like extra padding to life, extra experiences, not in survival, more, but in a way that's delicious. Because I think you can be at a Michelin star restaurant with a luxury handbag and have this outward, like through visual experience of luxury, but not feel it in your body.
Yeah. And that's actually a common experience that happens, because as we go about life, there's some things that used to be a luxury, but we just start taking for granted. So if you think about something that you were dying over it, you were planning for it, you were like looking at it for ages, and now you have it. It's You don't probably feel the same way for it.
Mhm.
This, one example is, for example, maybe you used to think about, oh, that Friday night coffee that I'm going to get, or that Friday night dinner I'm going to have. And you used to savor it, you used to think about it, you used to think about your experience, you think about what you're going to wear for it. And then it starts to become mundane, it starts to become a normal thing. One of my coaches, I remember she gave the example of like Uber Eats, and we have delivery Uber Eats here. I don't know what you have in America, but
Yeah.
having those people deliver food to you, at one point it was like, oh my god, a luxury, like somebody's coming to give me food, like I don't have to
Mhm.
leave the house, like I don't need to get dressed. And now it's almost become like, oh, I feel like having a takeaway, I feel like grabbing some food, just open up the app on our phone and we just do it, we don't think
Yeah.
twice about it.
Yeah.
So it's even things like that, that where do I have luxury experiences that for me right now no longer are defined as luxury experiences, and how can I still bring pleasure to those moments as well?
I looked up the definition of luxury. We've got one: extremely comfortable living or surroundings, so extreme comfort, something that is not essential, but provides pleasure and comfort. So, not survival, but extra. Something that is desirable, but expensive or hard to obtain or do. So, those are the three definitions that came up. I'm curious, if you're tuning in, what makes you feel luxurious? And is it different than pleasure? So, what feels like that extra padding of comfort? What feels like a splurge? I think we can brainstorm some ideas together around that too. One question I got that I loved before this conversation, we had some listeners submit questions beforehand, was a scenario where this listener is working at a job that they don't like. So she's, working at a job that takes her energy away from her. And she's wondering how to shift into a state of pleasure when she has this job that's kind of sucking her dry, that's taking all of her energy. And she's a projector too. And I think a lot of projectors and people find their way in this. But I know that I had a job as a server for many years, and it provided me a lot of freedom and flexibility, really quick income, cash, but I was drained. And so I had a really hard time. Like after my shifts, I didn't want to go home and take a lavender bath. I wanted to zone out and watch TV because that was where my vibration was at the end of the day, serving tater tots and hamburgers and moving really quickly and being in my head, strategizing who gets ketchup here and who gets fries here. How does one who's in this situation of straddling, they're not making money from a way that brings them pleasure. The reality is they're living, making their money from sacrifice. How do they shift? How do they start to build their income to something different? Like what's one or two small steps that they can take?
And I love this question because I was there before, and I remember exactly like how you described, just feeling exhausted at the end of the day. Like I also remember the feeling where I'm not giving my all to this job. I know I'm not giving my all. And one thing that I did, and this is really important when with any situation or any circumstance that you want to shift and change and you want to manifest something better, is really accept where you are right now. Like really be like, okay,
Mm.
this is the hand I've been dealt right now. This is what I have right now. Rather than resisting it, because resisting it is just going to create more exhaustion, more suffering, more tiredness, more fatigue. Just accepting, okay, this is the job I have right now. And how can I make the most of it where I am right now? Like, how can I enjoy it? What parts of it can I feel pleasure in? And for me, I was teaching in a school, and the paperwork was exhausting. That's the bit I did not like.
Mm.
And the thing that I was like, okay, what can I enjoy really about it was these really cute interactions I'd have with the children and the funny things that they'd say. And I remember in those moments, I would allow myself to be so present with them and enjoy the funny things that they would say and just really feel love towards them. And
Mhm.
that within a few weeks and months, I remember my whole energy around working there completely shifted and changed. So that's my first thing I would advise. The second thing I would say as well is bring some of your masculine energy to your week and dedicate a time to be like, okay, I'm even though this is I'm accepting where I am also open for more. Also open to more, and this is my space to explore more. So whether it's a weekend, whether it's a Saturday night or a Saturday morning, that you're gonna maybe research ways or avenues to create your own business or things that you really enjoy, or apply for other jobs or whatever it is, that's your masculine contained time that you're going to actually do that. And Amanda, you mentioned about like when you used to come home, you didn't want to do these pleasure-filled activities. You wanted to just relax and sit in front of the TV. I would say when it comes to like those kind of things, sometimes when you have just used up so much energy, you do need to release from the day, and that is a form of release. Rather than shaming ourselves sometimes for thinking, oh, I should be doing something different and being more in my feminine essence and doing some pleasureful activities, you can allow yourself to release. And again, have that masculine container of, okay, it's only going to be 1 hour. It's only going to be one show. And then move on to the next thing. Like, then do you have some energy left now? Energy reserves left now to do something for yourself.
Accepting where you're at is step one. That is so powerful. And that could be applied to someone living paycheck to paycheck, working in a restaurant, and someone who's in a really high profile corporate position that feels drained at the end of their day. That can be applied anywhere. And it sounds like it's about bringing the version of you that is luxurious and filled with pleasure to any condition that you're in first. Accepting first where you're at. So you ditch the resistance, you ditch the frustration, you lower the stress. You say, this is how it is. I'm going to decide to be happy, to be content, which is a really powerful practice. It's not easy all the time. It can be, but it's not easy all the time. And then finding the blessings, the things that are beautiful in the moment. And I'm even thinking back to my serving position. There was camaraderie in my team. I worked with a lot of friends and we had a lot of laughs and good moments together. And there was this feeling of after my shift, I remember the restaurant would be quiet. The bartender would turn up the music and I would just wipe tables down. And it was this feeling of like, peace, and, have a snack or pour myself a drink and just have this like spacious time. And it was a very sensory, nostalgic feeling that happened for years after. And so there were these blessings in the moment. And I also like what you say about releasing shame of just needing to like meet yourself where you're at and sit in front of the TV and zone out and just say, this is life right now. I'm in human mode. But shifting the energy of where you're at will start to build energy to transition you out. Like it will be really hard to get to a lifestyle of pleasure and luxury from the feeling of frustration and stress and feeling trapped. And I think there's many people out there in various positions in their career that could probably relate to this. So the question is, how can you accept exactly where you're at in the moment? It doesn't have to be this total, like, this is my hand I've been dealt for life, for the rest of my life, but today. And how can I see the blessings that are present right now and just do the best I can with where I'm at and become the person that I want to be regardless of conditions? Am I getting that right?
Yeah. And at the same time, opening the door
Yes.
to what is my next opportunity, like looking for avenues, looking for ways, working on yourself on the side as well.
I love that. It sounds like a lot of surrender too. Like this feeling of like, okay, this is where I'm at right now. I'm open to more. One of the things that I've noticed in my life is that as I'm expanding my income, there's a relationship to surrender. So it's obviously really important to dive in and do the work to shift my beliefs in my relationship with money and do that forward work. But I find that if I focus too hard on it, nothing happens. Like I almost cling too hard to like, this needs to change for me to feel pleasure and comfort and luxury. And then I get frustrated. So it seems to be when I divert my attention elsewhere, the new clients pour in, the new opportunities present themselves. And it's kind of when I stop trying, if that makes sense. So I try a little bit and then I stop trying, that things change. Can you explain the energetics behind this?
Yeah. So there's this thing called attachment and detachment. And I think especially as projectors, anytime you're attaching yourself too much onto something, you're holding on energetically too much into, this is the way it's going to work. This is the way it has to work. This is the way I need to make it work. What we're doing is we're not looking at the rest of the picture. And the rest of the picture is that God has like 1,000 other simple, easy ways for you to get what you want. And those simple, easy ways, especially if you're a projector, like, you know, your energy is like a lighthouse, they involve you just being you. They involve you just enjoying yourself, having fun, doing what you're doing. And the people will come. The people will come. And that is energy of detachment. That is the energy of, I've declared my desire. I know what I want. I know I want more. And I've done a little bit of the masculine work, but I'm going to reside more in the feminine, especially when you know that this is what your energy is bringing you more of. Like when I'm actually in my feminine, when I'm actually not looking, things happen and things flow for me.
Unapologetically Coco, hello. They were recently on my channel doing a live stream. Talk about being yourself. Unapologetically Coco lives that. So everyone go follow them. Says surrender has been the most difficult practice to learn. I feel that.
Yeah,
could you, I think, explain briefly for those tuning in who aren't aware of masculine feminine interplay and just the energetics and how it relates to kind of business, and then weave that into surrender and what surrender really is and looks like. You talked about detachment, which I like, but maybe some embodiment practices that can help.
Yeah. So masculine energy in business, and remember there's a healthy version and there's also a wounded version, is, you know, goal setting, structure, containers, timekeeping, creating a plan, strategizing. All of this is like the masculine. Having boundaries is masculine. The feminine is more like creativity, flow, allowing things to come to you, like allowance, filling up first. So meaning allowing yourself to shine with yourself first, meaning seeing yourself first before you let others see you. Like you being magnetic to yourself first before you magnetize people towards you. Being in a state of surrender is also feminine. And the person that said surrender is a really, really hard thing to do is a really hard thing to do, because surrender is not a one and done thing. It's not like, okay, I've mastered surrender. I remember feeling that when I read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and surrender just happened like that. And I was like, well, this is amazing. I love this feeling. I can live like this forever. And I didn't realize that, yeah, this doesn't actually last forever. It's a constant practice. It's a practice of surrendering moment by moment by moment by moment. And especially when it feels like you can't surrender, especially if it feels like everything outside of you, the 3D world outside of you is giving you evidence to not surrender. That's when it's like surrender is like the most important thing ever to do.
Yeah. And it takes nervous system safety. And I'm curious, I mean, Coco, I've witnessed you go through periods where you feel surrendered and then also kind of coming back to the contraction. So there's the moments where it's like, oh, I'm embodied in this. I feel this. And then there's also the moments of like, I'm scared. And it's important for you to feel safe, because on a base level, if there was a threat in your environment and it was a threat to your physical safety of like literally living, are you going to surrender? There's no way. There's no way you're going to embody the mentality, the energy of surrender. But if you can find a way to feel safe with some of the practices that we've discussed about finding resource, slowing down, widening your perspective, surrounding yourself with things that feel good, then surrender can unfold a little bit easier. But it's an elusive concept. And there's just a question, what does surrender look like? Like, can we maybe spitball some ideas around how how surrender might show up. And feel free to pipe in the chat too if you have ideas.
I was literally thinking of that. Like, what does surrender feel like and look like? And for me, surrender in my body, it feels like my energetic body is falling back on itself.
Mm.
So it's like my soul is taking a back seat. It's like sitting back inside of myself. That's what surrender feels like in my body. And I want to, like, Amanda, you were talking about something where people are thinking and in their head. There's been people or clients as well that have told me that they've surrendered, but then they're still in their mental space. They're still asking the same questions. They're still thinking about the same things. They're still talking about the same things. That is like a mental version of surrender, which isn't true surrender. Because if you really surrendered that thing, the same ideas would not be coming up for you. You would still not be thinking, is it here yet? Is it here yet? When is it coming? When is it coming? Because you would have really surrendered. So fully embodying surrender is like letting go, trusting, and allowing the next step to unfold. And that, I think, the thing that people find the biggest difficulty in is the trust. It's like they can let go mentally, physically, emotionally, but just trusting that somebody has your back, that God has your back, that there is another plan for you, and there's something unfolding even if you can't see it. That's the part that I feel like a lot of us trip up on.
Completely. For me, it feels like complete presence, and there's a spiritual component for me. It's leaning into the belief that spirit has me no matter what. And I may not see the conditions unfold in a way my mind wants, but I know that I'm held and cared for. So it's feeling supported by the ground. It's feeling the presence of divine guidance, and it's leaning into that and knowing that if I don't get what I want, I'm still going to be more than okay. So we have to let go of like the need for our income to expand, the need to feel better. It's like in this moment, I'm okay and I'm held, and it's feeling that support. For me, that's my experience of surrender. And again, feel free to pipe in the chat about surrender. It's a huge topic. We could probably do just a whole video about surrender.
Yeah.
I want to open this up to questions too. So if any of you tuning in just have general questions for Jamila about money and pleasure, anything that you feel stuck with, feel free to ask them. We did get a question of how can I be an energetic match for attracting millions of dollars? So I'm going to add to that in a way that feels good and nourishing, because we can attract millions of dollars in hustling and striving too. And so, and for the purpose of this conversation, what does $1 million energy embodiment look like?
I love this question because, again, the answer is going to be different for everyone. Yeah. Like if we look at all the millionaires out there in the world, they are all very different. They all have very different vibrations, very different energetic frequencies, personalities, the things that they do. So the question would be, like, I would encourage this person to ask is, if I was making $1 million, that version of me, what would she be doing? How would she be feeling about money? What would her intentions be for receiving that amount of money? Because sometimes money, one reason why money is not flowing as much as you want in your life is because it doesn't have a place to go. It doesn't have a home to go to. Like, what is your intention for that money? Is your intention that, and I want to call this money in because I want to buy a house, or I want to call this in so I can invest in this coach, or I want to call this amount of money in so then I can do this with it and put this into investments and this much and this much and do this and this and this with it. Then money has a place to go. So really, really ask yourself these questions. That if I was making $1 million, what would I be thinking, feeling, doing? What actions would I be taking? That version of me that has $1 million, what's her frequency like? What is her in her energetic vibration? What does she dress like? Even what does she talk like? What's her day look like? What are her activities like? And what's my intentions with this money? Where is the place that it's going to go to? Those are really good questions to answer.
That's great. And I would suggest, and I often work on this with my clients as they're doing envisioning work, of like, okay, so budget the money that you don't have yet, but include a budget for pleasure. So yes, investing in that, putting in investments or buying the house or having the lifestyle you want, but also what makes your body feel good. And how are you going to invest into your nervous system so that you don't tip into a state of burnout? So investing that back into pleasure, making sure I have this much money for massages if I like them, this much, to go on yoga retreats all around the world, like thinking about reinvesting into your body as that $1 million energy that's also juicy and resourced and in overflow.
Yeah, I have a very similar exercise in the money bundle. And in that one, I'm intentionally asking people to actually double their spending from day by day, like actually double it, because you'll notice what amount of money is the contraction in your spending or your releasing of money happening. Because some people might hit day 5 in this exercise that I've got in the money bundle, and they feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with the money now. And that shows you that you don't really have an intention for growing large amounts of money. And some people are shocked when they realize, oh, just actually spending $10,000 or £10,000 is causing me a contraction. I have no idea how to spend it. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And that just shows you where your energetic blocks are. Where are you limiting yourself or upper limiting yourself in how money gets to flow in and out for you?
Yes. Powerful question. Someone said an EG I heard is if you're being driven somewhere and the route is wrong, but you surrender by not correcting the driver and trusting that they will get you to your destination somehow. Yeah, that's a great example of you're like, okay, where am I going? I'm going to open myself up to adventure. And no matter what, I'm going to decide to be delighted and amused by this experience. And it's going to become a story because you know what? If you're in a car, you're being driven somewhere and you don't know where, that's probably a day that you'll remember more than just being driven to where you already know. So I love that example. Someone asked how to overcome scarcity mindset. This is a big one. A lot of people, even if they're making a good amount of money, they still live in scarcity. They still might count their dollars or decide, oh, I should get this thing for 75 cents less, or I'm wondering how, like, scarcity mindset exists independent of how much you're actually bringing in. So how could you overcome that?
Firstly, awareness. Like this person, the person that asked this question, there has definitely some sort of awareness of where the scarcity mindset is happening. And reprogramming your nervous system, reprogramming your body and your subconscious to take new actions is going to take time. But the first thing is, what is the root cause of that scarcity thing? Like really ask yourself, when was the first time that I remember feeling scarcity with money, even though I'm making 10,000 a month, 50,000 a month, whatever it is? And there are usually emotional blocks tied with that experience. So part of the work that I do with my clients when we're doing this deep releasing of money blocks is we're going to that prime critical moment where beliefs about money, beliefs about scarcity or abundance were locked in. Because between the ages of 0 to 7, we're actually absorbing beliefs about how the world is and how it gets to be for us. So those emotions are generally usually trapped somewhere in your body. And they can show up as just like dulling sensations or like constriction or your heart racing fast or your stomach clenching, or they can manifest as illnesses. And when you do some releasing work on that specific emotion, you'll start noticing that scarcity, not just around money, but around other things will start dissolving. So scarcity around love, abundance, time, even. So the first thing I would really encourage this person is, even if you don't know when that first critical event was, forgive yourself, do some forgiveness work on yourself for allowing the beliefs of scarcity to come into you. And next time you notice yourself like, oh, I'm looking at, is this 75 cents cheaper? When you're noticing that kind of scarcity mentality, and let me just add also, you could be a person who's thinking, oh, is that 70 cents cheaper, but not be in scarcity, and you could be somebody who's asking the same thing and be in scarcity. Only you will know. Only your consciousness will tell you the answer of, hey, I'm doing this because I actually genuinely have a good relationship with money and I just want to save a bit of money, or I'm doing this because I'm scared and I really want to save and hoard and keep and not spend that much money. But next time you're doing that, how can you bring safety in your body again, like the things that we were talked about today, and then consciously choose something different? And every time you consciously choose something different, this is how you're rewiring your brain, you're rewiring your mind to act in a different way. And this is going to be scary at first because your nervous system is going to go into like overdrive it. Oh my God, you're spending so much money on that apple. How can you buy an apple for that much? But you're literally retraining your body as you do this. I know, because that is exactly what I had to do, where I would be like, oh my God, why am I buying a coffee when I could just make one at home? Or why am I buying this when I don't need to? And it was through repetitive conscious rewiring patterns of this that I was able to slowly come out of that kind of mentality.
I'm giggling because I remember as a kid, for me, like going out was very rare, and we did it on our birthdays. And sometimes we would do it just like stop by Wendy's or McDonald's, and my sister and I could each pick 2 things from the dollar menu. So there was this scarcity of like, I mean, going out to eat was such a luxury. And I remember when we did go out for birthdays, we would never order drinks. That was a way we cut the cost of like, don't get a soda, like just drink water. And as an adult, still to this day, I have plenty of money to afford a drink if I want to drink, but I always, it's not necessary. Like I still have this pattern. That's what's coming up for me as you're talking about this, of scarcity of like, oh, and I'm like, where does that, I mean, I can totally buy, like if I want to have a beverage to go with my meal, I can do that, but I'm stuck in that mode of, oh, that's too much. I can't afford that. Or like, but that comes from childhood. And so in that moment, whenever we notice these little moments pop up, bringing attention into the body, slowing down, evoking great presence, telling yourself you're safe, leaning into, affirmations. I have enough. I am supported. And then walking yourself slowly to buying that drink and bringing pleasure into that moment, tasting it. And this is just my example, but however you want to apply that, it's bringing yourself back into your senses, slowing down and feeling safe. So I love this example. What are some good money attracting affirmations or rituals just in general? Like what are some quick and easy affirmations that you like to share about money and pleasure?
I'm always cautious in giving affirmations because the affirmations that instinctively hit your soul, instinctively hit your heart, are the ones that are going to work for you. So as you hear me just riff a bit right now, or when you watch the replay, you can write them down. Mm-hmm. And when you feel a ping in your heart, like, oh my God, yes, oh my God, yes, that's the one that you really want to try. A lot of people feel like affirmations don't work for them. And the reason they don't work for them is because either you have a deeper subconscious block that's preventing them from working for you, or they're just not landing for you. So they really need to land for you. Okay. So I'm going to go for some money affirmations.
And
money
share in the chat too, if what Jamila says resonates with you, or if you have your own, so we can just kind of, again, share ideas.
It would be awesome if you can write down the ones that really resonate for you, because when I check the chat later, I'd love to see which ones really hit home for everyone. Money loves me and loves to chase me. Money feels so good to be in my energy, and I feel so good to be in money's energy. I give freely and I attract freely. I love to spend money, invest money, collect money, save money in a conscious, pleasure-filled way. Mm-hmm. Money loves to come to me even when I'm sleeping. In fact, money especially loves to come to me when I'm sleeping. Money loves to come to me when I'm actually working and when I'm not working. Every day I wake up to thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in my bank account. Every time I see money, I feel so much love and spaciousness in my heart. People love to work with me. People are manifesting ways to work with me right now. People love to work with me, be in my energy, and they feel so transformed and changed just being in my energy. That's how special I am, and that's how much money wants to come to me.
So good. I'm going to put that on replay as a meditation. I loved the one where money could come to me when I'm working and not working. And just to kind of close, I wonder if we might think of some examples of ways that money comes when we're not working. Because I know for me, with that programming of money comes from trading time, that is a really powerful antidote to think of examples. Like I couldn't comprehend it at first. What do you mean money comes when you're not working?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
maybe
definitely.
we can share some examples, or you can come up with some examples so that others listening who also have that belief that you have to trade time for money can kind of
Yeah.
expand their consciousness around it.
Just before I answer that, I just remembered I have a free energy of money meditation that anyone could
Perfect.
literally download. So I'll send Amanda the link for that and she will add that to the description. So if you
Yes.
loved my little riff on money, you can download that energy of money meditation. Some examples of passive income streams coming in for you is if you're selling courses, if you're selling books, if you're selling something that is just available that people can just purchase without you being there. So you've created it once and people can benefit from it for lifetimes, for generations. Even if it's not a course or a book or an ebook, it could be something like merchandise, like clothing, bottles. Like I've done some of these myself, or people that are really into graphic design kind of stuff, presets, ebooks and guides on something that you're really knowledgeable in, and allowing that to be something that people can regularly purchase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. So having some sort of passive income stream, you can get gifted money. You can get a refund from a random refund, or, rebate or tax refund or something from money. Money can come in so many different ways. That's not even streamed through work. Money comes
So
to me even when I'm sleeping, especially when I'm sleeping. Yeah, right. I give freely and I attract freely. Yeah, I love that money comes to me, especially when I'm sleeping, because again, you're not trading time for money. It's flowing in and thinking in a way and opening your consciousness in a way where money can come in when I'm working and that feels good, but money can also flow in so many different ways. And I may not know those ways, but I open myself up to finding them out. Universe.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yes, they want your meditation. So we'll link that below.
I'll definitely send Amanda the link for that.
Great. So I know that I do a lot of work with nervous system care and working with this like high achieving, forward thinking energy and slowing it down to feel more delicious. I don't do specific money coaching, but I do offer work with, my whole program is called Work Deliciously. So I feel very comfortable in working in that embodiment form. How could listeners work with you? What does that look like? And of course, I included a couple of your links below already, but I know you have a YouTube channel. How do people connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at the.abundance.factor, and also on YouTube, The Abundance Factor. And if you feel like you want to work with me one-on-one, you can send me a DM, because my services are like so, what's the word? Comprehensive. That's the word. Because what my clients do, they usually end up manifesting wilder than the wildest dreams, and in the most ease-filled, pleasure-filled way. So if you know there's something that you want to work on, whether it's your money blocks, whether it's attracting more clients in your business, whether it's like there's something in your life that you really want to shift the energy around, I do a lot of work on using nervous system tools, but more on the energy meridians in your body to clear out the blocks and bring more ease into your energy and into your system, so you can bring in the things that you really desire in a delicious, ease-filled way.
I love that. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Please do give this video a like if you haven't already. This really helps us to share this conversation with more people who resonate. Feel free to share the conversation too, if you know that someone would benefit from this dialogue around money and pleasure. And I so appreciate all of you. I'm getting more comfy doing lives. So if this is something you want more of, stay tuned, because I'm enjoying it. I really love interacting. So thank you for being in the chat, for your questions, for your comments. And I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. Woohoo!